Hello, my name is Jennifer with A Glass of Art and More. Today we're going to be painting a sophisticated cat, as I like to call it. It's really just a cat sitting with a grumpy face, holding a glass of wine and eating some bougie food, like a charcuterie. So, anywho, I'm going to start with our background like we always do, and I'm going to stick with my primary colors today to make it easy for you. So, we're going to start with a palette. We're going to go a little bit of cobalt blue. I always shake up my paints before I squeeze them out. Put about the size of a quarter on there, it's going to spread. And then I'm going to go with my bright red. Again, giving them a good shake just to make sure that all of the medium and the pigment are mixed up in there. Really don't think I'm going to need yellow, but I have it, so I might put a little on my plate. Probably not as much as those two. We'll see. I might put a little in there just to dull down my color a little bit. So my color wheel, my primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. If I mix those two, I'm going to get a purple. These two, I'm going to get an orange. Those two, I'm going to get a green. And then if I mix all of them, it gets kind of mud, right? It's considered a neutral gray. There's my tips for today. All right, I also have white and black paint here. And just because I thought they looked cute, I have a Key West color and just a granite gray in case I need them. Now I always have my paint cup nearby. My brushes are in there. Sorry, my dog is choking on her bone. Not really choking, but she's coughing on it. Put my brushes in the water just to get them wet. Soften up any bristles. It helps to gather the paint a little bit as well, rather than going straight from a dry brush. I just have two flat bristle brushes today. This one's 1 inch. This is about a 1/4 inch. That's probably all I will use. And we're going to start with mixing the background color up. And we'll do the background behind the cat, and then we'll do the table, which is going to be kind of in front of the cat, because the cat is both behind the table and in front of the background. And then we'll add the other fun aspects to it. So get that moved out of the way. I have paper towel nearby. Excuse me if I bump my table while I'm painting here. Alright, anytime we mix colors, we grab from the pile. Oops, I got some fuzzies on that. Hold on, I'll grab that off first. I don't want the fuzzies in my paint. I'm going to grab from one color and I'm going to mix in a little bit in a third pile. If I mix them all together at once, then I'm not going to be happy, most likely, with the color. I'm going to waste a lot of paint. So I grab and make a third pile. Like I said, I think I might take a little bit of yellow and put it in there, because I want to kind of dull it down a little so it's not quite so vibrant. Now I'm going to get out my white. Give that a good shake. Ooh, my white is crazy splooging everywhere on me. Got my washable rag there. Alright, so acrylic paints here are not washable out of clothes or fabrics unless you get them wet right away. And once you have it on your shirt, pants, towels, whatever, and it dries, it's there. It might lessen, but it's there. The other thing you'll know too is it's very thick and crusty. So what I like to do to save our environment, I guess you want to say, save money, save everything, I'll have a rag that I will have paint on, because like I'll wipe it off my finger like I just did, and I'll clean off my brushes, but I clean my brushes in the water first. So this might get full of paint, but it's not going to be like crusty hard paint. Alright, so I'm going to start painting the background. I'm just going to go back and forth with my brush. So you notice I'm pushing down kind of hard. More of that paint that wasn't really mixed in well comes out. And I'm going to leave my background kind of like that. I like that it's not one solid color, but if you want it to be one solid color, then you just want to go back and forth a lot more in the same spot, and that'll blend it together. Or you want to blend a solid color on your palette before you start painting. I always like the variations of colors in the background, so I'm just going to go over it back and forth, making sure to get my paper good and saturated with color. Ooh, almost dropped my actual picture over here. I have a picture of my sophisticated cat to the left of me, so I can see roughly where he's going to be painted. It's always good to have some sort of a reference image to go from, whether it's a sketch or a photograph. You want to have some sort of reference to look at when you're painting. It helps you find the placement on your canvas. It gives you the fine details that you might not remember from memory. Alright, so I'm going to say that's my background. Let's get a little bit of a white spot there coming through my canvas. There we go. Now I'm painting on watercolor paper. Put my brush in my paint cup. I spin around and get my watercolor paper. This is the paper I like to paint on. It is for watercolors, but it is heavy enough that I can paint acrylics on. You notice I have it taped down so it doesn't warp and buckle. Now I'm just going to clean out my brush, give it a good swirl towards the bottom of my cup, swish it around back and forth, see how it's fairly clean. And I'm going to do the whole Bob Ross trick there, and I'm just going to smack it on the inside of my cup. He would smack the tar out of it on his easel, but we're not painting on easels, and we also don't want to mess all over the studio. And then I come through here and I dry my brush off. As you can see, there's some paint that's still coming out of it. Well, that's okay. Alright, now I want to paint the foreground here, which is the table. Now the table can be any color you choose. I'm just going to stick with what I have here, but I'm going to add a little more blue to it. Because I'm working with the same colors, I know they're going to look good together. I don't have to worry about, is this color going to look good with that color? Is this going to look okay with that? If you stick with the colors and you're consistent with them, you'll end up having a more cohesive painting. It doesn't mean you always have to do this, but if you're just starting, it's not a bad idea, especially if you're not good with picking colors that should go together, or a little more white. Yep, sometimes I put it directly on my canvas. Again, because it's watercolor paper, it has a tendency of taking a little bit more paint than I'm used to when I work on canvases, which is weird because, you know, you think it'd be, but it's absorbent, more absorbent than the canvas cotton is. So, all right, nice edge here to find my table and my background. Now, if you're doing this at home, you can pause the video, grab a snack, whatever. You want this part to dry, and then once it's dry, we're gonna go ahead and go on to our cat. And with the wonderful world of technology, we're back. My canvas is clear, or sorry, dry. I'm going to be working now on putting our cat down. So I'm going to go to my 1/4 inch brush. I'm going to need some black paint, and I'm going to need some white paint. Sorry about my arm there, stretching out to grab another palette. Okay. Now, black paint goes a long way, so I'm only going to use a little bit of black. This is also a little bit thicker, It's a different maker. And again, you notice I just used this, but I'm still shaking it up before I open it to squirt it on. Make sure it's good and mixed up. All right. Move my other paints out of the way. I want to make sure that you guys can see this on camera. I don't have it too far off. There we go. Okay. I'm kind of going to start with I guess a black outline. Now it can be thick or it can be thin because we can go over it. So I'm just going to load some black paint on my brush. And I'm going to put my cat's head in here. So I'm going to think parentheses. Okay. So there's parentheses. That's his face. I'm going to give him kind of a flat head, a very shallow curve here. We're going to connect those parentheses. Now how far apart are they? Well, I have a 9 by 12 canvas, and I'd say that's about a 2.5, 3 inch head. Curve this down to his face. I'm going to curve this guy over here a little bit better. There we go. His ears are triangles, so I'm going to go out here for one ear. And then I'm going to bring this guy out. I'm going to cut a little notch into it. There we go. And do the same on this side over here. We're going to point this ear out this way. And we have this slight little thinner part there. Cut in and then down. There's that ear. We're going to give him his face. Kind of like this. And then this part over here is going to be white. And then we're going to have his come down. And this is where his arm is going to come and bend this way. His paw. Part of his arm over here. Now this arm's going to be going up because he's going to be drinking his wine. So this is the one that's going to come up. And he's going to hold his wine. I'm going to have to switch to a smaller brush to do his face in here, but I just want to have in his nose the basic outline there done. To my brush. This is going to be kind of gray now, but sorry about the dog barking. She hears a truck. Shh. Thank you, Suki. Hey. You know, she must warn me that there's a evil man out there taking my trash. Garbage pickup day. So we have a U shape here for the wine glass. And it's going to come on down over here. On the base. I'm going to dip back into the black again because I want to get the cat's hand through here. The cat's holding Suki. this. She wants to go outside now and see what the noise is. She's tapping me with her nose and her paws. Alright, so that's the basic shape there for the cat. Now I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. I don't know what I have over here. My brushes are kind of ratty. Kind of gross. Alright, this is a 0, it looks like, round brush. Now when it comes to keeping these kind of bristles together, I like to dip them in the paint, and then I like to spin that on my palette to try to keep it to a point. And I try not to get the paint down into the finial here. When I get the paint down too far in here, it actually makes it spread because the paint won't come out of here. So then your bristles will spread and you kind of ruin your brushes. So keep that in mind. Alright, I want to kind of define this thing I have going on over here. So his eye is kind of like this. So this is his nose. His nose is going to be right here. I also want to dip my paintbrush often and not press down too hard. If I press down too hard, the bristles flare out, and when the bristles flare out, my line gets really wide and fat. We're not really going to give him a smile, because remember, he's kind of a bougie, sophisticated kitty cat. Alright, this guy comes out this way as well. His eyes, they kind of don't go above that. They're flat at the top because he's kind of on the grumpy side, so we're just going to keep him flat, like he doesn't really care what you're doing, and then we're going to give it a rounded bottom. So give this a rounded bottom here. It's kind of like a shallow dish, like if you're a baker cook, kind of more of that saute pan going on there. Alright, we gotta put in the cat pupil. Just redefining that shape a little bit from when I had it. Alright. Fairly happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and put his paw prints in over here, holding, so it's kind of round that off like that. Bring this one down here a little bit, round him off down here. Back into this white gray mess over here. So kind of create a color. Spin my brush again, bring it to that point. And I'm going to put a slice of cheese here. So I'm going to start with a square. I guess we're going to go into more of the white. So my square is a little bit off-centered here. It's not like a perfect square. We've got those angles because of the perspective that I'm going to be drawing it in. Bring that up. Alright, so there's that square. And from here I'm going to do a rectangle. So now this line and this line have to be the same. It can get slightly closer together there because of perspective. So you can do that. This is always straight up and down. When it comes to perspective, these lines here have to be straight up and down. And then we're going to connect this one to this one over here. And that's our wedge of cheese. So we have that triangle top, square, rectangle. Alright. Let's put another big old wedge cheese slice. I'm gonna round this guy off over here. Just a big pizza slice looking thing. So there's our pizza slice. Right, because we got the triangle, and then we got the rounded thing. We're going to draw back this way just a smidge, and we're going to connect this line to this line. Round it again, because it wants to mimic this. So this is like from a round wheel of cheese. This is kind of a little slice of that. Alright, so we have some bougie cheese out. Maybe we want to put some berries, like he's eating some grapes. And the reason I'm doing these in white right now is just to kind of get the placement down. We'll go ahead and we'll add color to them later. We're getting the placement down so you guys can see where everything is supposed to go. We can overlap some berries. We can have a smaller one. We can make them into like a bunch, because not all of them are going to be the same size, right? We'll put one over here like he's grabbing it. Maybe it rolled over this way. I feel like we need something over here too, so maybe we're going to have something that rolls off over here, or maybe there'll be a place setting. I'm not 100% certain yet, so I'm just going to hold off on it. I'm going to take a little of this white and just add a little highlight to where that gray was, because the glass is clear. Here to be white, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill those in while I've got the white on my paintbrush, and I'm right there. And again, I'll probably add a second coat later. This one actually is up here. Let's make these paws over here white. We want to leave some of that black in between so it looks like he's got the definition between his paws. We can come back in with some different colors, some grays. Right now I guess it's painting gray because I still have black on my brush. Put those toes back in there. Now it always helps if you're painting with the direction of the fur to be more realistic. if you're going for realism. Alright, so we're going to say this over here, this part of his face is, this is white too. So his chin, this will all be white with some grays, but and this under part of his belly, this will all be white through here too, or a light gray, or whatever color you want your cat to be. It's all going to be the white. I'm going to grab a bigger brush to do that, to fill it in. I'm just trying to show you where those colors are going to be. Obviously the inside of his eyes here wouldn't be white, but I'm going to make them like a light green, so I'm going to go ahead and put the white in, just so that it'll stand out and it won't be muted too much from that background color. Maybe I'll make his eyes blue. I don't know. I feel like a lot of cats' eyes are green. I don't know though, because I don't own cats. I'm allergic. Alright, and the inside of his ear is going to be a darker pink than this. That part will be a darker pink. It'll be the same color that we make the wine over here. We're going to have him drinking a red wine. The rest of his fur will be black and gray. Cheese will be kind of the yellowish colors. And the berries, we can make those kind of the same color as the wine if we'd like. So I'm going to switch back to my other palette. I'm going to grab my 1/4 inch brush from my cup. Rinsing it off down there. Drying it out. Also, with those small brushes, once you get them rinsed out, dry them off right away and lay them flat. Oh, it'll save your bristles a whole lot. Plus, this one is plastic, the handle here, but this is wood that's got paint on it with the numbers. If you let these sit in the water for too long, they're gonna start swelling. This will all start peeling off. It could end up in your paint. It doesn't matter if your paintbrush's handles have paint on them or not. I have one right here that the paint is chipped all the way off. But the finial here is very loose and wiggly, just because in our workshops we let them sit in the water so they clean easier. But if you're taking care of your brushes at home, you're going to want to try to shape them back to the original shape. And if you feel like your brushes are getting kind of yucky, you can actually rub them on a bar of soap and then shape them again and then let them dry that way. They'll be kind of crusty like a brand new brush. But it'll be cleaner and they'll keep in a better shape for you. So, a little handsome tip for you. Okay, so we had this color, a little smidge of this to get to that pink before, if you remember. So I'm going to grab some of the yellow, some of the blue, or sorry, some of the red, some of the blue. Little tinge of yellow. It just mutes it, remember. I'm going to need a little bit of white. Actually, I have white on my other plate. I'm just going to grab it from over there. I'm going to mix that in. Kind of a pretty lipstick color. A little mauve-y. Alright, I'm going to take that. I'm going to put it in my wine. So we want this curve to match the curve of the wine glass. We're going to go around his fingers. So if you need to switch to a smaller brush, go ahead and do that. Depends on how big your wine glass is. I like to use a brush that fits in the space. You'll notice a lot of times I'm switching my brush from flat to the side so that I can make a finer line. Fill everything in. toss that one in the cup. I'm going to grab my smaller brush and go into that pink color. Because remember I said we're also going to put that in his ears. So I can come over here and kind of refine that shape. And then we also want that to go back here. So this time I'm matching that top of the glass. Alright, I'm going to need a little more white because I'm running out of that paint color, so I'm going to have to mix some more of it up. A little bit of that blue, a little bit of the red. Add a little white if I want to. Alright, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to paint. I think I might need to go darker. It looks like it's not quite as dark as I want compared to my background, but we'll see. I have a tendency of making things a lot lighter when I want a darker contrast. Like if I want a more drastic contrast, I don't see it right away that I need to make it darker. I'm like, oh yeah, it's darker. And then you put your picture far away on the wall and you're like, oh, I guess I could have made that contrast a little bit more contrasty. A little bit more red in here because I feel like it's just gotten too brown. There we go. That's the color I was looking for. Again though, I think I'm going to have to make it a little bit darker. Notice I'm leaving a little bit of that black in there, so it's kind of like a outline. You don't have to. You can paint over that whole thing. Come over here and do this one. Inner ear. Notch cut out of his ear. I don't know if that's a thing in all cats or if it's just the ones who've been in fights. I haven't really paid attention. I think it's a thing in all animals. You just don't always see it in all of the animals. But I could be wrong. Feel free to leave a comment if you know. There we go. Come in here with my different color that I just made and add a little bit of variation there. Come back into the white a little bit. That way I have a lighter pink on my brush and make some of those highlights from the glass. There we go. You can also take some of that color and you can bring it down into the bottom of the wine glass a little bit, or up a little bit to the side, because it would be kind of reflecting into the glass elsewhere. Just depends on how detailed you want to get. Alright, rinsing my brush out quick, drying it off, grabbing the black because we're going to go ahead and do the pupil. Basically I have little triangles there. A little bit rounded. You can't really see it too much on the picture probably. There we have that. Alright, again cleaning out my 1/4 inch brush, drying it off, coming into my white, do the belly, fill the belly, fill the belly, fill the belly. Again, the cat's fur would be going up and down, so that's why my brush is going in that direction. Seeing a little pink coming out of my brush. I didn't clean it the best. That's okay. Again, we can go over a second time with any of our colors. Just kind of blocking color right now. Detail comes later. I always just block stuff in right now. Block it in, block it in, block it in. Add some more to the paw. Put those lines back in if I decide I want them. And I might do it with a marker. To separate his paw. We'll see. Alright, this part here too is white in here. His nose will probably be the same background color, so you can always leave that there. Notice how I paint over lightly with the paint over my lines. I can still see through them, so I can put them back in there. Alright, I think I do want to make them a kind of a dark gray. So I'm going to mix a little of this black and white together until I get the color gray I want. I'm going to hopefully mix up enough that I don't have to remix. The reason why I'm going to go with the dark gray is because then I can add some shadows in the darker spots rather than making him black completely. Still see some of that pink coming through. That's okay too. Now most of the time when I paint, we block things in, but I want you guys to see where the shape was. So like I would have painted the whole cat gray first, and then I'd come back in with the details of his eyes but because the cat has short little hair, we can do this without a problem, because the brush strokes, like I'm going to give him a little wispy hairs on his ears there coming off the end. In order to do that, I just kind of flick my brush at the end. And then his whiskers are going to come in over here as well, so. I feel like this is a black tie only event and he's the outsider because he's not black, he's gray. Maybe that's why he's feeling extra bougie. So he's special. He's a special cat. I like to have stories in my head going when I'm painting or drawing or doing any kind of art. Tell a story of what you're doing. Makes it more fun. Keeps things from getting boring, mundane, just another painting. Because every time I paint this, it's going to be different. I never paint anything that looks exactly the same. I'm not a production artist. It goes for my ceramics as well. They all have their own personality. It's not to say that I couldn't make things the same or close. It's just not my style. It's not the way that I paint. So, all right. So now he's kind of looking more like one of those terrier dog things, but oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Don't worry, he'll be a cat again here soon. I'll put the details back in, or maybe I'll leave my dog. I don't know. We'll call him a bougie dog instead of a sophisticated cat. Maybe he wants to be a cat. Maybe you prefer dogs. I'm a dog lover. Hence Suki barking a bit ago. Just like I said, allergies to cats kind of makes it hard to have them. I found out my son is allergic to dogs. We've had dogs all of our lives, and he was sneezing all of our lives. So we just figured it was allergies. And then for the longest time, he didn't have allergies anymore. We didn't have a dog for a while. And then it was like, you know what? I think you're allergic to dogs. Because boy, did he start sneezing again once we got Suki. Picked her up from the shelter. A little shadow underneath his paw right there. I'll go back in with the other blue and kind of make that look more like a shadow. All right. It's important that you keep the line down here on the table nice and straight, so follow where the end of his belly is. And hopefully your belly is lined up with your table so it's good and straight. Nothing worse than having a wonky table. Your cheese might fall off it. Your fruit would definitely roll off. You don't want to spill your wine. Switch to my smaller brush. Whoops. The brush that just rolled under my painting. There we go. Sorry, I know my hand is right in the way at that time when I'm doing that. I'm trying to bring my hand over here to the side for you. Slightly around the edge over here, look like it's kind of coming, like he's got his paws are rounded a bit. Just kind of get rid of any paint blobs so it dries faster and more evenly. It doesn't have a big bumpy texture on the painting. That's fine sometimes. Not what I'm going for today. Alright, so maybe we're going to go ahead and we'll put a few stray hairs through his ears. So I feel like he thinks he's bougie, but he's just kind of a little tabby street cat as well. background color again with his nose and touch up some spots that I went over by accident. Alright, and put this back in. Kind of like a T. So there's the tip of his nose. So what color should his eyes be? I was thinking green. Maybe go a little bit more on the blue side, kind of a blue-green. And then I feel like it needs to be a little lighter, so let's bring some of the white paint over here. I think that color looks pretty next to the pink, so let's do that for his eyes. So again, it's just blue and yellow with a little bit of white. We're going to go next to his pupil. We're just going to make a round iris like that. Same to this one over here. Try to make my paintbrush back to a point again. Trying to get those to be about the same size. This one needs to be a little bit bigger. Back to my 1/4 inch brush, drying it off, grabbing some white. Nope, I don't want white. I'm gonna wipe that off. I want this bluish backgroundy color for the table. Kind of that purpley color, a little bit darker. Might be too dark. Alright, grabbed a little bit more white. Just going to put a shadow underneath the cat here. And throw a shadow under the cheese. Do a shadow underneath berries. You don't have to do this. I might wish I didn't do it later. I don't know. We'll find out. Seemed like a good idea. I'm going with a little white, just kind of lighten up some lines there. Alright, I like to have some fun with the brush strokes. Let's put a little of that color on over here. Looks like a shadow, but it also will make it look like the table's got some texture to it. This is how you turn a mistake into a happy little accident. Okay. Rinse my brush out. Dry it off. Grab the white. Nope, that's going to be green. Nope, not too bad. Alright, I'm going to kind of come in here and I'm going to press down and then flick up around the edges so he kind of looks a little more messy. Because like I said, he's bougie, but he's, you know, he's bougie for a street alley cat. Yours might just be straight old bougie. Mine's not quite as sophisticated as he wants us to think he is. Alright, so now if we want some of this detail to show up more, we're going to have to go into our grays. We can go into this blue-gray down here and pull some of that up into the belly of the cat. It'll kind of tie that color in. Just be very generous, but kind of stingy at the same time. You want to have enough of the shadow so that it makes sense, like underneath his chin here, right? That would be darker. Casting a shadow. If you feel like it goes a little too dark, grab some more of that white. You might have to wipe your brush off. Just short little strokes. Kind of rounding him a little bit out here, like he's got a little bit of a belly on him. Kind of going in both directions. Notice my brush is up and down, not this way. It's this way. I got a little crazy up there. I might have to fix that. Alright. Maybe I want to put some more bright white back in. I'll let that dry before I do. Go back into my white. I'm going to go around his nose again. And again here, you can use a smaller brush. You don't have to use the big brush. I just like blocking in a lot of color as quickly as I can. I do enjoy the process of painting, but sometimes I'm impatient as well. You kind of have to know your limits. How long are you going to be able to sit and paint and not get bored? Or have to, you know, move on because you have a hungry spouse or a kid asking for your attention, demanding your attention. Guy here. We're gonna lighten up some of that gray. Sorry, let me bring my palette over here so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just lightening up that gray. This in his body. Make another pile over here. Makes it easier. If you're gonna go drastically, it makes sense to make another pile. Alright, so I got my paintbrush loaded up, but I'm going to twist it, remember, to get it to that point. And I'm going to go ahead and draw some of these whiskers that, like, the ear hairs coming out a little further. Light pressure to keep that fine line. Some more of that gray color. Let me twist it on my paint palette again here. Keep it nice and tight. detailing and show off some of the areas that I want to emphasize. This is where I'm going to go in now and kind of add all those details that kind of faded away while I was covering. Now, if you don't have a steady hand to do fine line, just do it with a marker. Wait till your paint is dry. Go back in with a Sharpie marker or a ballpoint pen. And you can put the lines in. Really is very light pressure here. And re-dipping a lot. Because if you try to push the paint out, you're just going to spread your bristles and have a rather heavy line when you really wanted something very light. You might notice yourself holding your breath sometimes too. Make sure you remember to breathe. Darker gray. I don't want it to be too black. It's gonna be black, it's just easier. So you can either go with the dark gray and add the details, or you can make it black. Depends on your patient level. Sorry, I have a song stuck in my head. I don't know if you can hear that or not. I'm singing to myself. It's a good song. Oh, there goes Suki again. She's pawing at me. She wants to go outside. She's bored. She said, Mom, you've been in here long enough. Let me go chase the chipmunks, squirrels. There aren't any chipmunks out. Go lay down. Care that I'm not like following my paint 100% either. If you want them to be more sophisticated, you probably want to follow it a little bit more stringently. give them a solid outline if you choose, or you can just let it be sketchy. And some fur lines over this way. Maybe a couple in over here. Over here, over there, over here. I'll put, making the decision, put the paw in front of that berry. Maybe need to make that glass stand out of it. Maybe it's gotten a little too lost in your background colors. I wouldn't do it up here on top unless it's not dark enough for you. Alright. It still looks like one of those dogs to me. He needs whiskers. Maybe then he wouldn't look like a dog. Alright, so drying out while we're rinsing out that detail brush, drying it out, dipping it in my white. Nice round point. Let's go for the whiskers. And have them go right on off the page. Trying to keep them really fine. Again, if you have struggles with this, you might want to use a paint marker. Cheese. We need the cheese to be painted. Yellow. See how much that spreads out? Remember, I just put a little bit of yellow on. It really does spread. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit of the red to the yellow, so kind of orangey, but not being too orange. mixed in. Should use my bigger brush because now it's getting in the finial of this one. Which means my bristles are going to get worse. Alright. I don't know what kind of cheese we have here, but it's a cheese. Just going to add that right over the lines that we had painted on there. Fill that in. Does anyone remember getting cheese with like a red wrapper on it? Like the wax wrapper was red. I don't remember what kind that was, but I feel like there was a cheese that had a red wax wrapper on it. Alright, this one over here, maybe we should make it a lot lighter white so it looks like a piece of Swiss. So I'm going to grab more of my, oops, I should have dried out my paintbrush. There we go. Grab more white, mix it over here with my yellow, because, you know, even the Swiss has kind of got a tinge of something, doesn't it? Not always. You think I know better, I'm from Wisconsin. Alright, so this is, like I said, the end of the painting where now you can start doing all your details. Been doing details. I grabbed a little too much of that darker color, but that's okay. We'll add it in there as like the shadowy. We'll add some holes in there. Still have to paint our berries. We could make them green grapes because then we have the green of his eyes to go down here with the green of the grapes. Or we could go with this darker color. Come in here with white. Let's make some little cutouts. I feel like those probably should be darker, huh? Not white, because, you know, shadows. How that works. No, man, changed my mind. All right. This is why reference photos are really good. Because then you can look at it and say, yeah, that hole does look like it's darker because of the shadows that's there. make some of the edges the holes in it, right? Just giving this guy over here a second coat. Making it a good Wisconsin cheddar there, I think is what we got. Just traditional orange color. Yellowish orange, whatever color you want to call that. Or American processed cheese. Uber processed. All cheese is processed, but alright, let's do the grapes the green color of his eyes. So they're gonna be kind of a muted green grape. They're not really true to its color, but that's okay. Because cats don't really drink wine. What? So with this brush, we can kind of hold it upright and then twist our hand. And it'll leave you with that circle. So hold it upright, twist your hand. Leave one of the bristles sitting flat. And you'll end up with nice round circles. And if I want to have a little shadow in there, grab a little more blue to your paint. And you can add a little darker contrast to your grapes. I'm going to switch to my spalma brush to get that green filled in there. Obviously the ones in the back should have been darker than the ones in the front. But it's done. Let me grab a little more paint because I'll make some more up here. Now I'm happier. Add a little shadow to those. Maybe come in with a little more white, lighten that green up. We still want it to be green. We'll add some little highlights to our fruits. And then a little highlight to our cheese. I don't think cheese is really shiny, but you know, we're adding highlights, so why not? Just adding another coat up here. I'm going to bring this out this way a little bit. Lighten up some of those gray lines just a smidge. You got a little too crazy there while the paint was wet. There we have it. There's our sophisticated cat. Or pit bull. Or whatever it's supposed to be. Now, like I was saying before, if you want to hit it with a Sharpie to outline it, like, I mean, it's a cartoon cat, right? And our cat cartoons back in our day were always outlined. You can go ahead and outline everything with a Sharpie marker. You can either do it in the colors that it has, so like you could do a green Sharpie over here, you could do kind of a yellow or an orange on these, just to make everything kind of pop a bit more, or you could leave it. Don't forget to sign your painting. I always sign in the bottom right hand corner unless that's kind of blacked out, and I also sign with a Sharpie marker. So once it's dry, I'll do that. Oh no, we got water up here on our sophisticated cat painting. That's okay. We'll just kind of try to block that out a little. Forever be done. Okay, well there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the video. And we will be putting this up on our Patreon, well not our Patreon page, sorry, our subscribers page eventually. So if you subscribe to A Glass of Art and More on Facebook, it's $4.99 a month. I believe it's $4.99 a month. You can see a bunch of videos that have been shared there, that have been shared nowhere else. So go ahead and grab that information and paint your little heart away. Yeah, I think if I was to paint him again, his face is a little bit wider than my original sketch over here. Maybe he would look a little less doggy and a little more cat-like. I don't know. Anyway, have a good day.